Hello my dears and welcome back to my corner of the internet. I'm Shannon and today I've been having some technical difficulties. So instead of a video, we just have the audio here for us today. But I finished reading Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay and I couldn't wait to work out these difficulties. I had to come and tell you about them, or tell you about it right now, because I had to. So hopefully this is the last video that will be audio only, and then we'll be back to normal in a couple of days. But let's just get on into it. So this is going to be a book talk video, not a spoiler-free review. So I'll give you the basic synopsis, and then we'll kind of get into it more with some spoilers. So if you've already read it and you want to hear someone talk about it, or if you don't really care to read it and you just want to hear me talk about it, you can stick around once we get to the spoiler part. Anyway, first of all, Paul Tremblay has become an author that I really, really love. He's auto-buy for me. Having read like 4 of his books now, I really enjoy the way he's so incredibly all over the place with his storytelling style, and I just find him really interesting. So this book is about what would you even say? About a cursed movie, a cursed film that was made in the 90s by like this 4-person group. I won't even say of friends, because that's pushing it, but acquaintances. And this group is comprised of, first of all, our unnamed narrator. He never has a name other than his character name in the movie, which is the Thin Kid. And 2 girls, Valentina and Cleo. Valentina's the director of this film. Cleo's the screenwriter. And there's this kid named Carson, who's the male lead. Now, the Thin Kid is approached about this film by Valentina, who's like, listen, you don't have any acting experience, that's fine. You don't have any lines really in this movie, we just really want you to be in it. So he agrees, kind of reluctantly, but he's interested in trying something new. And they begin recording it. Now what we have with this book here is, it's sort of mixed media. On the one hand, it's a sort of autobiography about, or a memoir about the time shooting this film. Written or recorded, because at first it's just an audiobook, recorded by the Thin Kid / our unnamed narrator, because he's the only surviving member of the cast and crew. And it's like present day at this point, and the movie was originally filmed in the 90s, but it never got a release date. Like, something terrible happened, and it never went to release. So, like I said, it's part memoir about his time filming it, and then part the script from the original movie. And what's happening now is, in 2008, so like almost 15 years ago, Valentina, before she died, she had cancer. Before she died, she uploaded some of the scenes from the film to YouTube, and some photo stills, and some of the script to like her website. And so now the film, which was called Horror Movie, like the title of the book is, has kind of gained a bit of a cult following online. You know, in that kind of way that something that is so obscure and like cursed in so many ways, because so many terrible things happened on the set, you know, on Reddit and websites like that, it just really builds up this intense cult following. So now somebody wants to reboot the film. At first, the new director kind of keeps calling it a remake, but it's the Thin Kid keeps correcting her, and he's like, no, it's not a remake because it was never made, so it's more like a reboot. And so the new director comes to him, and he or she wants him to star, or sorry, not star, but to reprise his role as the Thin Kid in the film. And he kind of reluctantly agrees to it. And yeah, so the parts that are memoir talk about that. It kind of goes back and forth between then and now. So back when the film was originally being made, and then now when the reboot is getting ready to happen. So he sort of talks about meeting with the new director, talking about what can possibly be done for the film, and things like that. And this new director, it's kind of best case scenario, because some other directors have tried to take on the project, but they just don't have the right, like energy or whatever. But this director that they found, they really feel like she's going to do it justice because she wants to stick as close as possible to the original script. So, as the book's going along, a lot of things are alluded to, like things that happened on the set, but it takes a while before we get there and can put all of the pieces together. So that's about all I can tell you while remaining spoiler-free. So if you want to hop on out of here now, go ahead and do that. I would definitely recommend picking it up. I think for me, it's going to be a 4-star. There's this unnamed narrator that we're dealing with here. He's unreliable in the most extreme sense of the word. You can't really trust a thing he says. And at one point he'll say something and then later he will contradict it. A lot of the characters are terrible. There's character development in so much as the characters are getting worse in some instances or all instances. But that said, I really enjoyed it. I've never read anything like it. It's definitely, it's a little gruesome at points. And it'll get under your skin, but if that's something you like in your horror, I would definitely recommend. I went in fairly blind to this. I knew it was a cursed film, but that was about all I knew. And so I was really interested to see what it was about. I didn't know if it was a haunting or what it was, but I really enjoyed it and would recommend. So get on out of here if you don't want the spoilers. Now's the time for you to go. And for the rest of you, let's kind of carry on. It would take way too long to go point by point through everything that happens in this book, like I sometimes tend to do in these book talk videos, just because so much happens and a lot of it is script, so I'd be kind of just describing so many things to you. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but basically what starts to happen is the movie starts to be made, and we start to see that things on set are perhaps a little different than in a normal film set. They're all very young, And for our narrator, the way it kind of goes is that he's not shown any of, the entirety of the script beforehand. He's just given the scenes that he'll be in the night before so we can kind of go over them and get ready for it. And you kind of get the feeling, and it's kind of told to him, I guess, that the reason they're doing this is because some of the scenes are going to be really intense, and they don't want him worrying about that too much. So we come to learn that the basic plot of the film is that 3 friends kind of kidnap this kid in their school, which is the thin kid, and they take him to this abandoned school nearby. So Valentina and Cleo, the writer and director, and then this third kid, Carson, who's the male lead, they're the 3 characters in the movie. So, Valentina and Cleo are characters in the movie, and those are their names. So those are their names in real life, and then those are their characters' names in the film. So they're taking this kid to this abandoned school, and, they put a mask on him. They keep him in this closet. It's this whole thing. But we never really see his face, and we never know his name, aside from the thin kid, and we'd never get any backstory or anything like that. They're just taking him there. So at school, you kind of get the feeling, when they're in their normal schools, day to day, you kind of get the feeling that these kids are kind of loners or losers or whatever you'd call them, because at first, nobody at school really pays attention to them, but the longer this kid is missing, the one they've kidnapped, the more people in the class and in the school are like, we're so sorry for the loss of your friend. And so while this is happening, it's kind of confusing to us because we've been given no indication that these people are a friend of him at all. And they're certainly not treating him like a friend. But it's something that they eat up this attention. So every night they go and they visit this kid that they've kidnapped. And the things they're doing to him are increasingly terrible. So first of all, they're keeping him in a closet with a mask on. Then, they're throwing rocks at him. And then one day they're, putting cigarettes out on his skin. And it's just escalating and escalating. At one point, his finger gets cut off. And then eventually, they bring this mannequin to the abandoned school. And they want him to practice stabbing it. And then you kind of get the feeling like this is building up to something. And that does come to pass. And of course, this is all happening within the film script, right? So that does come to pass. There's a scene where there's a party. And once they've really ravished this kid and sort of stripped away his humanity, they take him to this party where he's sort of set loose on this group of kids inside this party house. And that's where we really see, that they've done it. They've taken his humanity away from him. And then in the movie and the script, after he does this at the party, he turns on the 3 kids that had held him hostage. And, the one girl, Valentina, he comes out and he tosses her across the yard. Then he chases the male lead, Carson, down, and he kills him at his house. And then eventually it comes down to him and Cleo. And what was interesting, too, is, Cleo was the one that kind of had a soft spot for him and showed him a little bit of kindness. She'd bring him food and she'd check up on him between the times when it was, the normal check-in times. And then eventually, it's just him and her, and he kills her in the script. But what ends up happening is, when they're filming that scene, and this is what ends the production and the filming of the movie, is the scene comes down where it's him and her, and he sort of got her on this desk in the classroom in the old abandoned school where he had been kept in the closet. And he's got a chainsaw, and it went on and off about taking the chain off the chainsaw or having it on. And the director's kind of it looks more realistic if it's on. So eventually it gets put back on. And when the scene is being filmed, Cleo, the girl that's on the table, something happens. Something snaps in her. But snaps isn't even the right word. Very clearly this was planned based on a conversation. You just know. Because she had taken the thin kid out for breakfast the day before or that day. Anyway, when he's over her with the chainsaw about to fake kill her, she sort of pops up on the table, leans into it, and commits suicide, more or less. There's a whole thing. They go to trial for negligence, the director, and then also the thin kid, because of, it's film set. There's safety measures that need to be put in place. I don't know exactly how it all plays out, legally, but, none of them do jail time or anything like that. Because the reason is, I'm remembering now, the reason is that they have it on video, so sort of, disgruntledly, they can, her family and the jury, they can see that, or not the jury, but the lawyers can see that very clearly it was a suicide. And they kind of leave it at that. But of course, nobody's pleased about it. Nobody's pleased about it. And so the film never gets released or finished. And so then in the present day, they're getting ready to reshoot it. It ends up that the thin kid / our narrator doesn't have as many scenes as they thought they would, because for the earlier scenes, they were going to have a younger actor play it and then kind of put the original actor in the later scenes when he's more far gone in that sort of way. But it turns out they don't need him as much as they think they do, which sort of triggers something inside this guy. And we see it in the sort of grand finale of the thing. The Thin Kid spends the night, the original Thin Kid spends the night in the studio after everyone locks up and goes, and he stays in the new Thin Kid's trailer. And then when the kid comes back the next day, he attacks him and, like, literally, or I guess literally, eats him, or tries to. And it's this whole thing, like, because, of course, that's the way it's presented, but there are layers to it, and you feel like it's less probably the looking at the making of a literal flesh-eating monster and more the creation of this man who, over the years, has become a monster on the inside, at least to himself, is how I read it. And I just thought it was so interesting. I love a good unreliable narrator. Always. I always love that. I love when you can't believe a word anybody's saying. I like the mixed media. I always do. And in the same ways that I really liked Paul Tremblay's, I think 2022 novel, The Pallbearers Club, it's sort of similar in that with the mixed media and the unreliability. I think to this day, The Pallbearers Club is perhaps my favorite Paul Tremblay book. I have not read Head Full of Ghosts yet, but I can't wait to, because I feel like that one might end up being my favorite. But for now, it's The Pallbearers Club. And but yeah, this one was good too, and I think a lot of people are going to like it. I feel like if you like scary movies or movies in general, I think you'd enjoy this. If you like the sort of cursed film genre, you'll get a lot out of this. And yeah, I guess that's going to do it for me for today. Once again, thank you for listening without the video, but we'll have that sorted again real soon. And yeah, coming up later this week, I'm going to be recording the next episode of my podcast with my good friend Krista. And so I'll let you know when that is up and posted. We're reading The Bell Jar this month. I'll probably also post a book talk on that around the same time. So you can watch that or listen to the podcast or both. Because the podcast definitely goes a little more off the rails than the regular book talks do. Anyway, I hope you're all doing well, and I will see you again real soon. Bye.